Amigos y amigas, no room for introduction. We are completely late. Sorry if you were waiting already at 7 o'clock. We started talking about how the show was going to go. I grabbed a banana, and we kind of lost track of time. But we were talking about Mexican soccer. We just didn't hit the start button. So, welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. For all of you guys that are following us on the chat, thank you so much for joining us live. For those of you that are listening to us via iTunes, thank you wherever you're at. If you're at your car, or maybe you're just grab a bottle of wine and listen to us talk about Mexican soccer. We definitely have to a whole bottle. You can definitely get one. We're going to be discussing everything that is in the newsworthy in the last week for Mexican soccer, and I'm sure we'll be discussing what's coming up also here in Mexican football. Let's just jump right in and say hello to, we'll first say hello to Mr. Cesar Hernandez in the Tijuana, San Diego area. How's it going, sir?
Doing well. Apologies for being late. It's not Carrie's fault. It's not Weisa's fault. It's my fault. I always slack with making dinner at the last second, and then I forget I have to set up the mic. I drop my mic. It might be broken right now. I have no idea, but I'm glad we finally got the show started. And once again, apologies for being late, because it's all my fault right here. It's not your guys, so it's all my fault right here.
So you're trying to be able to team. It was Cesar. He joined in like 2 minutes before 7 o'clock. I'm outing him out. I'm just kidding. And you're seeing a new face with us here at the Mexican Soccer Show. We have Cari Torres, who, if you follow their Food Mex Nation channels, she did some coverage for the World Cup, was one of the very few that said Mexico was going to beat Germany. She was 100% sure. I even told her 3 days before. I was like, Cari, you don't have to do that. To we all know. And she's like, no, I really think they're going to be. I'm like, okay, editing and all that. I was kind of telling her, you don't have to go crazy and be Mexico's winning. Oh, no. She was 100% sure they're going to beat Germany. So kudos, because it's out there before that. Cari is in Dallas. And how's it going, Cari? Welcome to the Mexican Soccer Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's going good. Monday, lots of football talk on a Monday. There's always football all week, so pretty excited. I'm here in Dallas, so yeah, I thank you. I really appreciate this. I'm very excited to join the
Mexican show. Well, Cari comes from a different sport in her journalistic, let's say, road. She did some work for the Dallas Maverick, right? You were interviewing players and coaches, and they're on NBA and sent them to Mexico. So how was that?
It was great. I'm more passionate about soccer, but the opportunity for basketball came up, so I was like, why not? So I had to start from zero and learn, but it's different when you're on the court and you get to meet all these basketball players and to interview them. And I did have to do it in Spanish, so especially interviewing players, I would ask them, hey, I'm going to ask you in Spanish, and then in English, and just answer me in English. So that was pretty fun, and I got to ask a couple of fun questions at the end, like, hey, do you know anything about Mexico, or stuff like that. So pretty cool. Hopefully I'm back for this season again for Dallas Mavericks. So it's going on 3 years. So
cool. Awesome.
That's awesome. As I get older, I find basketball more interesting than soccer sometimes. So I'm super jealous that you're doing that.
It's pretty cool. I see Steph Curry walking, I'm like, oh, and then James Harden, I'm like, oh, hey, it feels very surreal, but it's a pretty awesome experience. So, yeah.
Nice. San Diego have a basketball team just out of there?
They used to have the Clippers, which is why the Clippers were named the Clippers. But nah, dude, the only thing they have is Padres and Sadness. Maybe an MLS team later.
Oh, I really thought there was a team named Sadness.
No. There's a San Diego Sockers, but they spell it Sockers, and that's an indoor team. But that's just depressing too.
All right. Well, there we go. Well, welcome to the show, Cari. Great introduction. Thank you for telling us a little bit about what you do. And let's just jump right in. I didn't start with a question, and we always have a question. Thank you to our producer, Amy, who is not live tweeting today. She had other duties. So if you're out there and you're on Twitter and you are listening to us, if you could tweet what's happening during the show, and maybe your followers can also listen to. We ask for you guys for your help. The big question of the night, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you that things will start improving for El Tri if and when Osorio leaves? And we're going to talk about the big news of last week, but I kind of want to hear you guys. 1 out of 10, Osorio leaves. You're confident that from 1 to 10 that FMF is going to do the right thing?
Who started me?
Sorry about that. Cesar.
Go ahead.
Me? Okay. Man, that's a 3. There are too many variables that don't involve Osorio. I mean, where would the next generation of players be in 4 years? The new rule regarding youth minutes for players in Liga Mx, is that going to have much of an impact? What's going to happen under the new presidency of FMF, new president Jan de Luisa? How long is it going to take for the current aging generation to phase out? Is the Two Alone tournament, that recent one where Mexico finished in 2nd place, is that a sign of good things to come, or is that just going to be another false golden generation? I don't know. I think there are just so many things that just go beyond Osorio. So, I mean, I have hope in the next generation of players, but I don't know. I would say I'm at a 3 or 4. I would say a 3 or 4 right now. All
right, 3 or 4. Gotti.
You know what? It's hard. I think I would go with Cesar, 3 or a 2. It's FMF. Like, what can you expect? You know, anything can happen, but I guess it depends who would take over when Osorio leaves. You know, I really think, hitting back with what Cesar said about the youth, I think that's very important because a lot of players are phasing out next World Cup. So, whoever's going to coach, they're going to have the idea that there's going to be the base is going to be really young, and see what players are going to be living up to that role. But I don't know. I mean, it all starts from the federation. It all starts from the root. That's the root. So you can bring all the coaches you want, but there's things that have to be changed. So
I think it's a consensus that federations everywhere around the world, including Mexico, just don't do things right. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the top federations, right? Because even looking at the U.S. Federation and all the things they went through, and these are the close ones. Mexico, and then going to the next one, Costa Rica also, when you talk to people, it's like, they hired, they call them macho over there, and they just didn't like it. And after a Costa Rican coach that took them to the World Cup, because of the players came out. There's Argentina right now, Spain. I feel like, is there federations that's doing the things like right in football? And it's, I guess, more of it's not necessarily a question that anybody can answer, but yeah. I'm starting to think that that's always how it's always been. No matter what, we're always going to see them as negative.
I don't think that excuses the FMF, though. I mean, once again, there's so many unknowns with the FMF because of the new presidency of Jan de Luisa. We'll see how that goes. But I think regardless of any problems for any football association across the world, I think there is still a vast amount of improvement that can be made. For not only, it's not even just the senior national team. I think when you look even deeper than that, the conversation that's always constantly had is, how do you properly transition those successful youth sides over to the senior national team? We've been having that conversation for quite some time. So we'll be seeing if the youth minute rule, if that will be a step in the right direction, or if it's, I don't know, if it will prove to not really do much for the Mexican national team going forward. So yeah, there are problems for federations all across the world, but I don't know if that really excuses that.
No, I don't think it's an excuse. I think I'm just kind of looking at overall there. Question for you guys, and this is kind of popped up. Since, let's say, 86, 90, 94, for those of you guys that remember 98, 2002, has there been a time where we didn't transition from, one generation to the other? I know that we're hearing that a lot, and I know that Tom brought that up a good point on the pod, and you're saying that also, Cesar. But I'm not too worried about the transition, because we've seen that it's, even when there was a generation that lost, it was that generation that didn't go to the Olympics in 2008, and they had to beat, I think, Haiti or El Salvador by like 6 goals or something. It was the Paleta Esqueda generation. Where the Pinita Arellano, that generation, that was supposedly really good also, that lost. But I didn't see it. I didn't see it this, in the national team. I didn't see like, oh, what happened to these guys? I think we're going to be fine on like the people coming in and people leaving, because I haven't seen that being really a problem. I've seen it in other federations. I can talk about the U.S., and that's what everybody points to. That right now there's a generation that's where is it? And now we're finally, hopefully they're getting into a better place. But I'm not too worried, and that's just more of a personal on that whole generational issue.
No, and I think that's fair. Although I said a 3 or 4, I think that's also, not to contradict myself, but there is still a promising generation of players too. And I think the big question here is not getting rid of Herrera and Guardado and getting rid of Chicharito right now. It's finding a way. I mean, yeah, obviously I'm not saying that, but it's finding a way to finding a way to having the younger players, the Eric Gutierrez out there, the Linus is out there, the Pizarros, find a way for transition them into the senior national team. I think that'll be the big question. I think, and which is why, I mean, as strange as it sounds, which is why I'm actually excited for the Gold Cup next summer. I'm usually not that excited for the Gold Cup. I'm usually not excited about heading towards wherever that match will be against Martinique or Trinidad and Tobago. But I am actually excited because I do want to see how that next generation really transitions into the senior national side. So I think that's going to be fascinating. Then looking forward after that, of course, you have the Olympics too, which Mexico still has to qualify for, but I think qualifying is next October in 2019.
Yeah. And I think going back to like the youth, like you said, transitioning those players, it's just a matter of giving them minutes. And then, like Osorio said, he made a good point, exporting them. They need that European experience. You know, that's the biggest thing. It's like you can have the best player in Mexico, but sometimes when it comes to a rival that they're not, you know, used to the style of play, it's like what happens then, you know? So.
Yeah. No, agree.
I think that's where it comes down to it, right? I think you can have all the players play in the youth league, but if they're not making that jump, and if we look at we look at the World Cup and we look at the teams that made it, and you can have whatever we talked about this a week ago. You can have the perfect team playing in the perfect leagues, and you don't have that bit of love to face them, whatever. But one of the central things about having a good team is having players playing in leagues that matter. I mean, that's just when it comes down to it. Sure, Germany's got great players playing in leagues that matter, and that didn't happen. But at least, you know, there isn't a team in there that sneaks into the World Cup or the semifinals with them not playing in the top 4 leagues of the world. And I don't think that's happened in a very long time. It might have happened before the 90s where a lot of teams, there wasn't that much, you know, players going abroad or they're still playing, you know, you saw the Argentinas in 78s, you know, you saw those types of teams, but now you have to have those players. And I think that's what the main ingredient is to win a World Cup. To get to those high places, players need to be playing in the best leagues in the world. Yeah. It's not a recipe for, you know, 100% we're going to get there, but it's going to increase our chances. And then I think I'm excited to see what can happen. I'm a little nervous in the last week. We haven't heard anything, you know, because I expected last week. Hopefully we're seeing some stuff coming out, but we'll get there maybe at the end of the show. But big news coming up.
Did you give your answer from 1 through 10? I don't think you gave your.
Yeah, you didn't do it.
Sometimes, you know.
Look at this guy over here.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm gonna go 5. At the same time, okay. I'm just gonna be in the middle because I think that we have seen at least a little better from the FMF, and I know this is gonna sound crazy of hiring a type of Osorio and trying to keep him. We've seen what they're doing with the youth tournaments and sending, you know, these guys over the facilities. I was reading a couple of tweets from journalists and there in Russia where, you know, they said that Mexico had one of the best planning World Cup as far as installations and all of the behind the scenes that you don't hear about. We've seen, you know, hopefully more of the, you know, all the things that we maybe not associate as far as a federation. I'm kind of seeing a little better, so I'm giving them a 5. It still doesn't say I'm hopeful. I'm just putting it in the middle, not so crazy.
That's still enough, right? F's all around. Yeah,
that's right, 50%. And that we're doing that. But I think it all goes down to the players. You know, as far as generation and what we're seeing, hopefully, you know, we see that transition as far as who's going to step up to be that great player. But in the last World Cup, who were the best players? You know, that's, you know, we would think that the Guardados, you know, that are leaving would probably still be up there. But I mean, people were talking more about Chucky than they were about Chicharito. Bella was probably the only one out of the older generation that did what they're supposed to do. Probably the best player out there, also in some of the matches. So, you know, it's kind of we see that. But yeah, I guess that would be mine. And we're still talking about the national team. Big news coming out of obviously last week, which we were kind of expecting already. We talked about it last Monday. Juan Carlos Osorio, we're probably like a 98% chance that he's out. And we'll say 98 because he hasn't actually come out and did a press conference and said, I'm not staying. But people close to him now came out, I think, Mr. Ives from soccer.ivesandgold.com, he broke the story, and it didn't surprise me. I looked at Ives' tweet, and I said, of course, if there's anybody that knows Juan Carlos Osorio, is Mr. Ives, because he was close to him there in New York. And I remember having Ives on the show when Juan Carlos Osorio came on, and I've talked to him outside of, when Mexico-U.S. plays. And, yeah, he has close ties to Osorio. He said that he isn't staying. This was after the FMF. Try to renew their contract for 4 years, and we're just waiting for Juan Carlos Osorio to accept or decline it. Then more record, I think, in Mexico kind of took it about, and it was just kind of left at that. That was Thursday when the news kind of broke out that Juan Carlos was looking not to stay, not necessarily confirmed. And then about in the last 2 hours, a couple of journalists that are in Mexico, actually they're in Miami, Ricardo Mayorga, who's a Colombian journalist who's in Jorge Ramos y su banda, said on air, I spoke to Juan Carlos Osorio and he told me he's not staying. So I'm not going to say it's confirmed, but it's looking more to be that Juan Carlos Osorio is leaving. Yeah,
with Osorio, the question wasn't if he would leave, it was when he would leave. There are numerous reports of all this happening. He turned down a contract extension in March. He's had no problems declaring interest from other teams from abroad as well. So I think this is something that we've kind of anticipated when it comes to Osorio. So I don't think it's that big of a surprise.
No.
And of course, the terrible conversation we're going to have going forward. I mean, not just us, but everyone. It's just like, oh, who's going to be the next manager? Who's going to be? And then you're going to hear crazy rumors. Record's probably going to say some ridiculous rumors. But yeah, I think that'll just be the fascinating conversation going forward. Is like, who will be the next person in charge of the national team? Who's going to be taking over the notepad? Does Osorio have to have a meeting who gives him like the red pen and the blue pen?
Can we keep that notepad? Is there any way we can put that in like the Mexican Soccer National Archives?
Yeah.
Like that should definitely be fun.
What if we put it in the archives and then like we open it and it's just blank? It's just like there's actually like nothing in it. We're like, what was going on? What's going on here, Osorio?
No, I saw that notepad. There's stuff.
There's stuff. Legit
I don't
stuff.
know what it is.
I think regardless of if Mexico would have won World Cup with Osorio, he would not stay. I think I kind of saw it coming. Regardless if we made the 15 or not, he would not have stayed. Why? Because media, they always question him every single game. They can't get over the rotations, yet whenever the Germany game, they all applauded the rotations, and it's not easy being in that, the role of the Mexican, national team to coach. It's not. It's
the media's like that everywhere, guys.
No, dude, he hates it, man. You can tell he doesn't like it. He's a human, though. I mean, the thing is, like, he's.
I know, but I don't think it really bothered. I don't think he's seen really that bothered by other coaches.
Props, though, I give him props. He took everything.
Other coaches punched the media.
You could say which coach.
And him.
Beautiful punch. Like you saw a Chepo de la Torre angry at meetings, at press conferences. You saw him like never smile. Like I don't think Juan Carlos Osorio was that into the press.
He knew
and him being like that's one of the reasons that he might be leaving because of the press. That story and that was not true about bringing a mistress or whatever. It was it was like, I mean, there's those and you're gonna see those from all over the place. But I believe it more that Juan Carlos. And you know what? I went back to watch when Juan Carlos Osorio announced that Mexican soccer show, and I was so mad. I was like, why Juan Carlos Osorio? What has he done? He's just going to use this to trampoline himself to another team because that's what he's done. He quits teams, when if something like that, I was like, he's not going to make it. And it kind of comes back to it. I think he was always looking to either coach the national team of Colombia or a very important team in.
I mean, we knew he was ambitious. I mean, we knew he was ambitious the whole time.
I think that's why he's leaving.
I mean, that's why. I mean, and I don't blame him for doing that. I don't blame him for looking for a new opportunity. I mean, I think it's clear that he wants to coach abroad. It's clear that he probably wants to coach in England. I don't think he put all that effort into everything he's done on. I mean, we all know the story about him spying on Liverpool's trainings, on him studying Liverpool as well. Like all that effort that he did, like that wasn't just a coincidence. I think that's his dream right there. And I think that there is, even though he doesn't show that, maybe we didn't see some of that kind of anger towards the press consistently. I think there is an immense amount of pressure with that job. And a lot of it is due to the press as well. And maybe whether it be the press's fault or not, we saw a lot of that, I don't know, a lot of that pressure really boil over during the Confederations Cup. We saw what Osorio was doing there on the sidelines, yelling at, and it wasn't just a one game, it was 2 different games. So I'm not saying that was directly because of the pressure that the media put on him, but I think that was almost a symptom of everything that comes with that job. So I don't know. I as cool as it would be to be the Mexican national manager, which would be pretty dope. I mean, you'd get a lot of money too. I don't envy the amount of pressure that managers deal with, and I don't envy the amount of pressure that Osorio dealt with. And I'm not surprised if that was a factor in why he would want to leave, is because he doesn't want to deal with it anymore. There's greener pastures, and especially after the World Cup, he's been given more credibility after the World Cup.
You know who got a worse press? England.
Recently, everything's been great though. Everyone loves everyone out there.
England, I mean, and it's like, even if it's a small team, like their own newspapers, and like even if it's like some 3rd division or whatever, they're like, they rip into them on how it is. And that's what. And he was over there and what he was doing in Liverpool, and if he wants to go there, he speaks English. Really quick, I was speaking to some people that are close to him, and I hate using that term now that I'm reading that a lot. Like, people are close to the matter.
As in, like, literally close to him. They
like literally. No, these are people that have conversations. I've gone out to dinner that have their phone number. I mean, I was like, I got some conversations there on their WhatsApp, and it's one of the things that they said was, that his whole family wants to stay in the U.S.
Yeah.
Because his kids are American and they're going to school here. His wife is also a citizen.
So would he go coach U.S.?
And they didn't equate that, but that's one of the things that they're very comfortable living in the U.S. and they want they want to do that, and which I don't see. I'm still kind of not maybe not now, but I just see if he's really an opportunist and he wants to take the next step, I wouldn't think the U.S. would be his job. We talked about it last week, but that's something I can kind of tell you. I mean, if it's all about being happy and it's all about giving your family what they want, and they want to, and he sees that. I don't know. Could it be an MLS team if he wants to? I would think that would be a step down. Nothing against MLS, but you already coach the national team. Why not stay in the national team or go to a club where you're going to coach better players in Europe? Hopefully we see that. Or like I think he's waiting for the Colombia manager job, and that's what he wants.
We can swap them, Pickerman, for.
That's what I said.
Just swap them.
There you go. Come back. We'll do that. But obviously we'll see. From what talking to other journalists, we thought maybe over the weekend there would be some news. I know he is in Colombia for, I think, like Legends kind of game that he was out there with Higuita and some of the players from Colombia back in the day, in the 90s, and he was there too. So that's kind of the news that he says they're already in Colombia. So we'll see. We're gonna keep you guys updated, obviously. I'm sure when the look for who's coming. I mean, and I think all the names that are coming out. Cesar, what if you have to say right now? Who would be, in your eyes, you think might be the front runner? Not who you would want, but who's probably going to have that role?
And you keep hearing the rumors about Sampoli. His experience with Chile, Sevilla, and Argentina obviously make him a strong candidate. Of course, Almeida is probably the front runner.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the worst option. I would actually be in favor of that option. I know you just asked me who. Don't say who is your favorite, and I've already said my favorite. But I do think that
out of anybody, you would have Almeida. Like if
if anybody, if it was. I mean, if I could have a little time machine, I would have gone back and I would have somehow got Bielsa to somehow join it, or somehow get Luis Enrique.
Guardiola stays with Dorados, and then after Dorados goes to the national team as a scout or whatever, and then he's been there for 10 years.
But I've said this before, but I think that right now there does need to be a change within the national team. I think they need to look at some of the younger Mexican players. And I think I said this in the last Mexican soccer show, but I do think that Almeida has shown that he was able to garner that trust from the young Chivas players, whether it be the veteran Chivas players, whether it be the younger Chivas players. They really seem to to believe in him, believe in his system. So I think it would be interesting. I guess more than anything else, I'd be interested to see what Almeida would do with Mexico as a project. Is he the most? Would he be the most exciting manager of Mexico this side? No, not at all. Like not at all. But I would be very, very interested to see how that goes, just because the success he's had in a short amount of time with Chivas, and also because of his experience with young Mexican players. And you do need more young Mexican players to transition into the Mexican national team. So I think that's why it'd be interesting.
Katia, who would be, you know, Cesar said probably next runner-up Almeida. Do you agree?
I agree. I think Almeida has proven a lot in Liga Mx, what he's done with Chivas, and I think that just gives him more credibility with Mexican players. He knows, you know, I think that's what we need. I think we always wanted a Mexican, you know, legit soccer coach that knows. I mean, I know we've had a couple, but, you know, I think Almeida is good for the job. Now, if you ask me who I really, 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 really want, and probably we're not going to have, which is like 99% chance we're not going to have, the most wanted, Tuca Ferretti. Oh, you know, after he's been saying,
wow.
Okay.
Yeah, after he's been saying,
you're gonna be like, you know, some like, you know, Guardiola or even the other. Funny, I was like, I'm all thinking, who's gonna name
who? I mean, he said, you know, he said publicly, no, and I think, you know, he's very bothered with that, and you know, he brought out a good point, you know. He knows that he's not gonna have the control that he wants, you know, with players, you know, it's just the reality, you know. Like
I think that's gone. Let me tell you why I think that's gone. This whole the FMF's telling you what players and the control of players. Juan Carlos Osorio had a lot of control of what players came in and what players came out. And this is something that was very interesting. The FMF didn't want anything to do with Rafa Marquez. Sponsorship deals were dropping. This guy's got a problem with you know, if he can't go to the US, he's got, you know, the national or whatever defense or whoever's after him, and he was a big deal for promoters and big deal that he shouldn't be called. Juan Carlos called him. He didn't care about that. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's the same anymore with these guys. And for your point that you won't have the control, I think Tuca Ferretti, why he's not with the national team is because he's got a lot riding with Tigres. All the money that's spent in that club.
It's insane. But you know, I think there is still some truth behind it. I don't think it's just not, you know, like you said, you brought a good point with, you know, Osorio calling out Rafa with the whole Rafa deal. But, you know, I was hearing that, you know, I think they were offering Tuca like freedom to like choose what clubs that he wants to go against, like what teams he wants to go against in friendlies, and just give him that freedom that he wants. But my only problem is with the youth. You know, we know how in Tigres, like he doesn't do, you know, he's not good with the youth. He's more with the, you know, great stars. You know, he goes for that, apuesta por the experience. So that's my only problem, just the youth. I mean, but other than that, I mean, he has an impeccable career as a coach for Tigres, and I think we're going to see that until he says no.
Tuca Ferretti's press conferences were hilarious.
They're hilarious.
For the little time that he was on there, the one in Dallas against Argentina, they were just funny. They're just funny. I mean, we saw that, and then obviously gave us that great game against the U.S. in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Is that what's the name of it? I don't know. What was it called?
The CONCACAF Cup. CONCACAF Cup.
It was a CONCACAF Cup. There's so many.
The North American Soccer Super Bowl.
That's a good name for it.
And yeah, so yeah, you know what? I would, if Tuca all of a sudden came up, I'd be okay with that. I want to see what he does with the national team. I liked when he was on the national team. I liked Argentina. I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't be like crying, like, oh my gosh, like if Mesa, if Romano, if like those guys, that would be angry.
Why do we have to bring up Romano, man?
That's weird. Out there. Well,
he's not.
Go ahead.
Sorry. What if we throw Rafa Marquez next coach?
No. What experience is coaching does Rafa Marquez have?
You'd be surprised, Wiza. You'd be surprised.
I would be surprised, but I don't want to be surprised. Like the guy.
Yeah, I was immediately say no to Rafa, but now I'm thinking about it and I'm intrigued.
He knows what other than the player itself, the captain, that knows from the inside.
How did Maradona do coaching a team?
We're not going to compare Maradona. Maradona is on another level.
I'm just giving you guys just because it's a great. In fact, the best coaches are not the best players. You look at that. Look at the best coaches around. They were good players. They were okay players, but they weren't the best players in the world. Just throwing that out there. So and Rafa Marquez.
So
I would love
we're
Rafa
ruling
Marquez.
out Picolín. Okay.
We're rooting out Picolín.
No, we're ruling in Picolín that he would be a really good coach.
Oh.
He had his moments.
He had his moments. Yeah.
Picolín doesn't come out as one of the best players coming out of Mexico. Right?
No, but he had his moments.
He had his moments just like everybody else. Freaking León Portero had his moments. Look where he's at now.
Let's not talk about León. We're going to get that later.
By the way,
got
ladies and gentlemen,
called up to the Mexican national team. It was all over his Twitter, Instagram. You could tell it was like the best day of his life. That's exactly what I would do if I got called up to the Mexican national once. Make it my header photo on Twitter and like change my profile pic. It'd be on my MySpace. I'd restart my MySpace just to like tell everyone.
Dude,
tell everybody
I'm
how
on the
to
Mexican
make it.
national
what do you mean
team.
restart? I still have it, dude.
Oh.
It became a music page for me. So if you find it out there, guys, good luck.
I'm about to look it up right now.
Oh man, I had a good point. And I totally forgot where it goes. Where we go?
Sorry, I brought up Picolín. My bad.
Dang it, Picolín. Oh no, Rafa Marquez. Right. I would love for him in 5 years, you know, to or even go from the coach, go to a club, stay with a club. Look what Titi Henry is doing. We saw him in the Belgium bench and he played France. Right,
Yeah.
and he might actually go to another team. I think it's coming out. looking at do that for a while.
That's what I mean. Like, get experience, not just jump and push him through. No,
right now. I thought you meant right now. He's like, yeah.
Oh no. I meant like long term, the next 4, 5, 6 years. You know.
I mean, 5 to 10 years, we'll see that maybe as an assistant, then finally take it over and see what he can do. I think that's what's missing with Mexico. It's these players that are going in. We're seeing a little bit now with the younger players going into coaching. We saw a generation from the 98 players and the 2002 players. They went into the TV. They're all TV announcers.
That is the issue.
Jorge Campos was there in 2006 with La Volpe. He was on his side. In fact, he went with Osvaldo Sanchez when his father died right before the Iran game, and he was there. What happened to Jorge? Boom, he went into the TV deals. It's like, go do that. I mean, we're seeing with Paco Palencia, the guy from Puebla.
But now there's there is a I would say new generation. There is the Leaño, the 31-year-old from Necaxa. You just see Rafa Puente Jr. And it's not as if Palencia is an old guy either. I think he's still fairly young too, and we'll see what he does this season, Liga Mx. So I think that there is another generation of Mexican managerial talent, but of course it wouldn't be surprising if a few years from now Rafa Puente went back to TV, which is kind of strange actually now that I think about that. But if Rafa Puente went back to TV, if Valencia were to do TV stuff, if Leaño, the 31-year-old, did TV stuff too. But hopefully, I mean, it's another conversation altogether. But I mean, we sometimes worry about Mexican players not going abroad enough, but man, we need a Mexico manager to take a chance abroad.
Dude,
let's do this, man. Come on, why just
here's where I go. Take the national team, and I know that people talk about Piojo. Piojo should have went to go try to do a team somewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
See what he did. Yeah. See what he can do. And there was stuff in England where talking about how much they would take him go into a Watford, and really go out there. Interesting enough, Piojo was here in my city over in the last week, and got a chance to kind of have. There's a press conference. No one was asking questions, and I just asked 3 or 4 questions. They kind of got mad at me because I kept asking questions, and I put the video on Twitter. But what really surprised one of the responses what I said about Osorio is that he really liked Osorio.
No,
Osorio's not going to tell you something. I mean, Piojo's not going to say something just to say it. He was like, I like what he did. I think people criticize it just like they criticize me, and he did a great job. And it was kind of cool to hear that from Piojo, which I would think that it would have been the other way around. And I don't know, maybe I didn't follow a lot, but I don't remember Piojo really saying a lot of stuff about Osorio.
Well, they had him commentating on Mexico games, and I think that really bothered me. Just I think some of his comments kind of oh, well, I would have done this, and it's kind of well, you should have, but you're not there.
Well, Piojo shouldn't be coach of the national. Piojo has a lot of maturing to do. I think Piojo has a lot of maturing to do.
Never mature.
He probably will never.
It was fun. All right, guys. Well, a lot of talk about the national team. We're going to continue to hear. I honestly believe that there won't be a coach named for a long time. That's, I think, what's going to be the longest time that Mexico's had without a coach. Get ready for it. I don't know. That's just a personal opinion. Why? Because the FMS is going to do an extensive trying to get somebody, and then that person's going to do meetings. I don't think we're going to have a couple interim there, here and there, unless. No, I don't think they'll surprise me and already have somebody picked with I think it's going to be a while before we get our official. Here's the coach said who it's going to be. So get ready for some interim coaches. That's just my idea. Juan Carlos Osorio might not even officially say he's not doing it. It might be a while.
Yeah.
One of the things that they said, Don Luis said there was no rush of what's happening. So any news on? But you never know. They could surprise us.
Like always.
But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's go into Liga Mx. Really quick, actually, let's go Liga Mx. Big news. I think I kept hearing more about the refs and coaches were bothered by the refs, and we saw that. I guess the biggest news that we can talk about for the very first time in the Mexican soccer show in Liga MX, the first team that we're going to talk about is Cruz Azul.
Jason, I know you're listening.
Jason.
Good Kuala Lumpur, man. I know you're celebrating out there, dude.
Kuala Lumpur, Jason, if you're listening to this, come on, man. I know you were jumping up and down. I was actually pretty angry. I don't know, Kari. Oh, by the way, really quick. This has nothing to do with Mexican soccer. Well, it does. But, guys, I found another León fan.
Yes, I am.
And as you saw, and you know what? I totally forgot about it. And then, like, last week, I forgot you're a León fan. So, yes, there are two of us, and we're doing Mexican soccer in English. So
hallelujah.
We won't be
hashtag nerds. But there are dozens of us. Dozens.
There are dozens. But really quick, I wasn't.
Doesn't count me though.
I wasn't. Yeah, I was not. I want Cruz Azul to win, but I was so mad when Elias Hernandez scored that goal because I hate the fact they took their best player on the pitch for León, and I'm like, but a little bias, I'm going there. But Cruz Azul, it's one game. We've seen them before. I don't get excited if it's Cruz Azul winning a few games because we know what Cruz Azul can do. But if I have to talk about excitement, back in the Azteca, everyone's kind of buzzing about this team. Then they win. El golazo from Elias Hernandez, 2 taquitos in a túnel, and then boom.
That was beautiful.
It's to be exciting times, at least for Cruz Azul from now in the beginning. But I'll go to you, Cesar, to start us off. That's probably the biggest news, right? I would say.
Yeah.
America and Chivas not winning, but let's give the credit to Cruz Azul, La Máquina.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about with Cruz Azul. The Pelaez era is off to a great start. Got a 3-0 win. Elias Hernandez had that goal and assist. So the goal was from Caraglio, another new signing, Andres Santeria. And I believe that first goal was the one that Elias assisted. So, no, I mean, it's a promising start. Obviously, you should take it with a grain of salt because it is against Puebla. I guess you could say Puebla was maybe one of the more underrated teams last season. But it was a team that eventually stumbled to 5 losses in a row the second half of last season. So I think that there's still some hesitation to get a little too excited about this result. But no, the attack looks very promising for Cruz Azul. I think they finished with like 18 shots. They dominated a possession. But yeah, no, credit to them. And really depressing start for Puebla. I don't think they had a single shot on target in that loss to Cruz Azul. So, but obviously, yeah, Cruz Azul, well done to them. And I don't think that they're going to win the title. Obviously, we're not going to be making ridiculous predictions just yet. But they look like a playoff team. They look like they're going to be a title contender.
Elias Hernandez.
I think, it was hurtful seeing him. Like, I was so happy he was doing so good, but it hurt me because he wasn't doing it with León. I think going back to Cesar, Era Pelaez, I mean, he's doing a good job. I think what he did differently was get the Liga Mx players that already, are in Liga Mx, not buy the mediocre players from, South America. And I think that's what Cruz Azul has been doing for the last couple of years. So this era of him, it's like, okay, I'm going to work with the Liga Mx, established players already. And I think he made a very smart choice of the players that he did. I think we saw the chemistry with Elias, with Caraglio, with the youngster Alvarado. I mean, I got pretty excited just because there is hope for Cruz Azul. I wouldn't be surprised if they wouldn't make it to La Liguilla. So if I kind of do see them at least, getting to La Liguilla, and then the rest we'll see. But
it's Liga MX, man.
You can expect
Santos won last year. I'm not saying anything against Santos, but it's they didn't even have Santos winning at the beginning of the season. We always go Monterrey, Tigres.
But it's fair to say that Monterrey.
No, it's true. But we'll say that. Well, even now, right? Monterrey.
Tigres, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And then you're gonna
If I was a betting man, I would be putting some money.
And then you're gonna sneak in there, maybe before obviously for injuries and all that. Maybe America could be a contender, and a Toluca, but's there. It's like, well, we're gonna give those guys that have been winning around, but it's Liga Mx.
Yeah.
Again,
I think one more thing about Cruz Azul.
We all know that Monarca is not gonna win. That's just.
I think one more thing about Cruz Azul, which I want to bring up, is that remember I talked about it at the Xolos game. I was chatting with buddy Francisco, and we're talking about one of their best defenders, like Novsky, the guy that they brought in over the summer. He wasn't even starting for them, and they still look solid. So I think that it's interesting now to see a Cruz Azul side that has more depth as well. Yeah. So we'll see what they even do in the Copa MX too, because if you can have someone like Lipnovsky on the bench, he could really step up and do extremely well defensively in a Copa MX match, or for I don't know, a game where you need a little bit of rotation. I mean, I don't know, it's really fascinating to see how they're going to be doing this season, because they really delivered in that first match.
Sad that Mr. Jason Markowitz is.
He can hear us.
He leaves this continent, and Cruz Azul does well. And I think he was there. No, when he was in Mexico, when he used to live in Mexico City. He obviously became a big Cruz Azul fan. So, interesting to see.
I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, the youngster. Did you guys see the youngster that subbed in for Cruz Azul, Misael Dominguez? I actually saw him come with Monterrey, because he came from Monterrey to play in Dallas Cup 2 years ago versus FC Dallas, and he was phenomenal on the field. I even asked one of the dads, I'm like, who's that? What's his name? And I looked him up, and he already had minutes with Monterrey's Primera División. So when I saw the transfer, I'm like, okay. And I saw him play. He's very promising. So just keep an eye on him.
I think he only played in the second half, but he's a midfielder.
Yeah.
What position is he? I can't remember if I'm sure you might know a little bit more. Was he a central midfielder or attack? I don't remember.
He's like
it was kind of hard for me. Yeah.
He's not a goalie.
He's not a goalie. but something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. No, he was one of the best youngsters out there too. So I was like, okay. And I was like, oh my God, that's Misael. I recognized him. And I'm like, he's not that tall. He's kind of, small, but wow, he was really great. He really blew me away whenever I saw him 2 years ago. So now it's only getting more exciting to see him, what he can do. But
someone to keep an eye on. There we go.
Keep an eye on him. And you know what? Going back, one thing. If Cruz Azul for any reason does not make La Liguilla, I don't think everybody should just be beating them up for it. I think they got a good because it's Liga Mx, right?
No, because it's Cruz Azul. Here's a promising start, and all of a sudden they win 8 games and then they lose the leg. So it's like, of course. And then they go to the Liguilla. They have a great team, and then they lose. They're gonna beat up on them again because it's Cruz Azul.
Though, because I totally understand that. Because I do that too, but I think we have to give at least this era a chance, because I beat El Cruz Azul every single year. I'm like, oh my God, they're so bad. They're so terrible. What are they going to do? They're never going to win.
No, the whole point of Cruz Azul is that they have this promising thing, and then a Cruz Azul happens. Like, they're, like Cruz Azul. Yeah, that's just what it is. They'll get, if they get to the final and lose and get second place again, it's just textbook Cruz Azul. But anything they do now is textbook Cruz Azul, which is kind of what the whole curse is all about.
Yeah,
it's also a thing where I think we have to remind ourselves. We always forget that we've all been brainwashed to think that like an Apertura season or Clausura season is a proper season. No, that's half a year. Yeah. I think a lot of teams really forget that too when it comes to managers. Something like it was like, oh, he was bad for half the season. It's like what, like a month and a half, like 2 months? Come on, guys. I think we got to be patient. Yeah.
The Liga Mx format, you can be, horrible for the first 8 weeks, somehow sneak into the Liguilla and win a title, Leon, and then win it again the following year, and it's like, that's just anybody. That's how it could be. The second story out of Liga MX would have to be that the big 2 teams, and we'll call them big teams because they have the most fans and, blah, 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 blah. America and Chivas not winning, not off to the greatest start. We'll start with the Chivas, who, I don't know, people were surprised. I wasn't surprised. When I talked to you, Cesar, last week, you said, don't expect much from Xolos. But when I saw the matchup, I'm like, I think, Xolos at home against Chivas, that's kind of, we don't know what's going to expect. We saw a great build-up, a great goal, I would say that, from the youngsters. But aside from that, it wasn't really too surprised that a team that has a brand new coach didn't work anything on balones parados and on free kicks and all. I think of both of those goals that were there. But you were there at the game, Cesar, right? Tell us a little bit about Chivas and how and Xolos, and is this maybe turning around your thoughts on Xolos maybe doing a better season than what you hope for?
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
I still think. Would it be surprised if Xolos make the playoffs? I just think that it's going to be unexciting soccer, and I think what I meant to say is more so. Let's say in the away games. What we'll see more than likely in the away games, we're probably going to see this weekend against Tigres, is that they're going to sit back and just try to frustrate opponents. So I think we'll be seeing a lot of that in the away games, and I think in the home game, I think you have to take into consideration that Chivas aren't exactly the most imposing side in Mexican soccer right now. So I think that, before Xolos fans get a little too excited, you have to take this one, I don't know, just be happy about this exciting start to the season, but it is a Chivas side that has a new manager, doesn't have Pizarro anymore. Obviously, Almeida is no longer there. And also, Blackwood had a good job, had a good performance in net for Xolos as well. But for Chivas, I mean, and I guess you could say the good news is that Van Rankin seems to be doing well. He's a new signing for them. Seems to be doing a decent job as a fullback. The bad news is just I don't know. It's just there are many times throughout that match where they just didn't really look very creative going forward. They look like they really lacked some ideas in the final third. But it is early on this season. Obviously, Chivas can still turn their season around. I think another positive thing was Orbelin Pineda. I actually thought had a very good game for them. And I think he's someone who's been a little inconsistent for Chivas in the past. So I think that's a promising sign, but we'll see what happens in this new era for Chivas. And as for Xolos, don't get too excited just yet, Xolos fans. It was at home against Chivas.
New
artificial turf. The old turf used to be worse than high school turfs that I've seen over here in the U.S. So I'm glad they finally changed that turf. What was that?
They got the good quality turf now?
Yeah, they finally got the good quality turf, because let me tell you guys, I actually went onto the field. That was some awful stuff like that over there. But yeah.
Somebody was complaining about the turf.
It was Pumas' female manager. Yeah.
No, Pulido was complaining about the turf.
Every time a team loses at the Estadio Caliente, they end up bringing up the turf at some point.
Oh god.
I remember playing playing field and then playing against turf teams when we'd go to in the winter here in the United States, and we play indoor soccer fields against high school teams or club teams in the winter, and then in Arizona it's an hour and a half and it snows. It's 8,000 feet. And I just remember my knees hurting like crazy afterwards.
Turf burns are horrible.
And it wasn't because it was because of the concrete that's underneath it. And you're running hard, and then all of a sudden I remember I could just imagine that on a level.
Yeah, the rumor is apparently that there's hot springs underneath the stadium, which is why they put into artificial turf. But I don't know if I really believe that. I think they're just trying to save some money there. But
Tijuana.
Yeah, that's the rumor, that there are hot springs, so they can't have real grass. So I'm not sure if I believe that.
As a journalist, they can tell you. I think you should find out what's underneath there. Start digging up records.
I don't want to dig too deep.
Never mind. Don't dig at all in the Estadio Caliente. Forget it. No, never mind. Never mind. Don't dig it up for obvious reasons.
I'll stick with the sporting. What goes on the field.
Right. Yeah, never mind. All right. Really quick plug for your Xolos podcast that you guys have there. So if you're in San Diego or you want to be, I know a lot of people are looking for teams in San Diego. Not to say anything because I love Leon, but San Diego has got a lot of people that speak English. They're in the Tijuana area covering Xolos. There's a podcast. There's so many people that are out there. I think it's one of the best, especially coverage if you're looking for any teams.
Oh, thank you.
And that's a great job there with the Xolos Squinkles podcast with Mr. Francisco, correct?
Francisco Velasco, yeah, my buddy. He lives in Tijuana. Awesome. But we meet up for the podcast, yeah.
Cool.
Well, thanks for the plug-in, Luis.
It was good. Yeah. That's good, because there's a lot of people that have been wanting to have a new Liga Mx team, and you know what? I'm gonna do the three, either Santos, Xolos, or Club America, because they have the English accounts, and those are where I'm going to continue to, especially people in the United States. So hopefully, Leon, come on, get up there.
They need to get up there.
They need the Wi-Fi first, right? They need the Wi-Fi at the stadium first.
Oh, God.
Oh, by the way, brand new stadium coming out of Leon in 2030. We'll see where that goes. Okay, we're gonna say the third story. America Piojo, very very angry at that press conference, saying that
He was always angry though.
No, but there's saying, well, we lost, we could have done. No, he was really. I was listening to the press conference, and he was kind of bad mouthing the players. Like, these guys beat you on a one-on-one on every aspect, on the physical side.
Necaxa outplayed America.
Like, it was a bad game America on that half. Could have been too many friendlies in the last week. Could have been I don't know. I know some players stayed, but I mean, who was that? Akadi, I'll go to you with America. You were able to watch the game?
So I watched part of it, and I was kind of surprised. No, I wasn't surprised. I think just because America has this expectations, but Necaxa outplayed America. I can't word any. They just outplayed them every single. They were just, the game was exciting because had a lot of give and go, but I think Necaxa outplayed them really well. And Necaxa has that, youngster coach. He's like 31 years old. And I saw, I think, his press conference after, and I really liked, I guess, how he came out and said, you guys can ask me anything. And, he said it, they worked, they knew the rival that they were facing, and they know they had to work, every single play. They really complicated America. And I think America just did not respond.
And credit, sorry, I was saying credit to Necaxa, credit to Marcelo Michel Leaño, the 31-year-old. He got... I mean, it's not the most exciting thing to win, but he started off the season with the Supercopa MX win, and then he just beat America. So credit to him for doing that, because I think a lot of fans going into season be like, yeah, they'll probably lose a Supercopa MX match. They'll probably maybe at best get a draw against America. I know America has some injury problems right now, but it's quite an achievement, and it's something to keep an eye on for that 31-year-old coach.
I don't think they should use I like the America fans. I don't think they should use the injuries as an excuse, because America has to have, all the quality players on bench. So, I don't think that should be a fair excuse. But, Cecilio's out for a couple of weeks with the jaw, and Menez, I mean, he's out the whole season. So,
one of the questions that I asked, I didn't ask him, the guy next to me at the press conference asked Piojo about, everyone's talking about the injuries, and Piojo was kind of like, to stop talking about the injuries. The injuries is not a problem for us. There's only one guy. Everyone, he talked about everybody else. Yeah, this guy's going to come out. Injury is not a problem. Like, he was kind of angry the fact that people were talking about injuries. But then going back now, when he pretty much said that these players weren't ready. Like, they were not ready for this competition. I'm like, didn't you have so many friendlies? But Peralta stayed back. And what we saw, I mean, Luis Reyes just did. It was like, terrible. He was in preseason form. Everything came out of that side. We saw that. And congratulations again.
They underestimated Necaxa, though. I really think they did.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was like, I really think they underestimated Necaxa. They didn't expect them to come out and full attack.
That's like, we don't give credit to these teams like Necaxa and Morelia, and it's like, I think we kind of just go, oh, wow, they won. Okay.
Oh, okay.
We need to do that.
So the Eagle Eye podcast, I mean, if we're going to do plugins for other Liga Mx podcasts, they cover Club America in English. They are a great follow, but they're on the chat, and they said the game can be summed up very simple. Poor tactics and poor start dictated the game for America. Credit to Necaxa, but questions should be asked about players and coach.
There you go.
Yeah, official from the Eagle Eye pod, from the very eye of the eagle from the podcast.
Eagle Eye podcast. If you're out there, I think there's other podcasts out there. I know Liga Mx team specific podcasts. What is out there? And we'll plug you guys in. We always think
the Paradero boys are apparently starting one, right? Right?
Yeah,
I think so.
They did.
Awesome. I know there's definitely some out there. So if you have one, and let us know, and we'll give you a plug over here. The more people that are talking about Liga MX here in the United States in English, the better. And, we all help each other out. Liga MX Eng and L3 Eng. So we'll see that. Oh, my gosh. It's almost already time to quit. I know we stopped a little late, so we'll go a couple more minutes. Anything else from Liga MX? Obviously, we talked a little bit about León and Tigres coming back out. Tigres just had a little too much firepower. I really thought León in the first 5 minutes could do something, and then they didn't. And then it went at 85 minutes of nothing.
It was frustrating to watch.
Frustrating, definitely to watch. We'll see what's going to happen there. But as far as Tigres, normally they have kind of a slump start. We've seen with Tigres, so maybe this is something different to come, Cesar?
Yeah, I mean, With Tigres, I mean, right now you got to mention just the immense amount of attacking firepower that they have, and the fact that they started off, I guess you could say officially, unofficially started the season off with a 4-0 win over Santos in the Campeón de Campeones. Another one of those strange matches to kick off the season. But no, man, I think that, I mean, although I would say with León, I've yet to be convinced by their defense. And I'm still a little worried about their defense going forward. So maybe that's why Tigres were able to get a couple of those goals right there. But no, I mean, Tigres, them and Monterrey, as easy as predictable as it is, they're going to be the title favorites. It's easy prediction to make because you look at that. Because when you look at that match between Monterrey and Tigres, you look at the Clásico Regio, that's the closest we can get to Liga Mx All-Star game. It's like a battle between those two teams. So I think you got to... I know with Tigres, maybe this is just a sign of things to come for them, because in the past they've had, I guess you could say they've had some shortened preseasons because of how well they've done. But I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens with them. Also fascinating to see if they'll be able to hold on to Zela Rayan. If you believe the rumors, he might be leaving, going to Racing. I think that's what it was, Racing.
I think so.
Racing
for a lot, though. Tigres is asking for a lot.
And that's not surprising at all.
Not surprising, but I doubt he'll leave.
But something to keep an eye on. But either way, even if he does leave, just the amount of attacking fire they have is incredible. Is really incredible.
And I think some people were like, "Oh, did you really expect León?" I'm like, honestly, I think just because of the amount of players that León got, I think they have a lot of attacking players. They think they could, because they hold it up to 0-0. I wasn't like, oh my God, but they were able to hold it 0-0. After that goal from Lucas, I mean, that was a golazo. There was like 3 on the what's it called, the barrera, and
the wall.
I'm like, why can't you put more? And I don't think Cota could do anything after that. But Leo Lopez, for what he did with Toluca, I didn't see that Leo Lopez out there versus Tigres. Montes was just not efficient on the wings. Maxi Cerato on the other wing, I think he still needs a lot. He would run solo on the attacking and no one would go with him. And
was Cerato playing essentially the Elias Hernandez role? Is that what was happening? Or who was playing the Elias Hernandez role? Because I was okay.
Because they had Maxi Cerato on the left and Montes Cerato on the right and Montes on the left.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. And then they had up top the Boselli and Walter Gonzalez, but it was just not pretty. It was just not pretty. So I was pretty upset.
Ladies and gentlemen, the León Esmeralda podcast brought to you by Cadi and Wiso every Wednesday night.
Coming soon.
No, I'm joking. Week 1 overall, disappointing. Cool. Sometimes they can't, sometimes they kind of, Liga Mx 1 comes in and we're kind of like, well, has it really started? But interesting already. I mean, things that are coming out, the 2 big teams not winning. Cruz Azul, it's exciting. There's definitely a lot of news coming out for Liga Mx on week 1.
Yeah, and apparently there's a lot of, unfortunately, because Xolos game was on a Saturday, most of the stuff that I saw was through highlights. I was looking at stats, I was looking at replays, but apparently a big conversation was regarding the officiating, and also I did see some of the stuff I saw on Sunday was through replays and whatnot, because I was being a nerd and hanging out at Comic-Con. But apparently that was a conversation that everyone's been having is the officiating. I didn't get a chance to see some of that stuff in detail, but that's
even the game, for example, Cruz Azul, I think it was a missed penalty kick, and then the other penalty kick, I don't think it was granted. It was kind of like, oh, I missed one over here. You're starting to see that there's some more officiating, and again, it's not a surprise when we hear that from coaches. But someone like Mesa coming out saying that there was really bad officiating, I mean, it's something to kind of look forward to. And what we saw, so we'll see what's that. We didn't get a chance. We kind of went a little too much on El Tri, and apologize, but we'll continue to give you obviously coverage and to look forward to really quick. If you follow the Dos Santos brothers and Vela El Tráfico, I think it's this week, right? That's what they call it, the Clásico Valet, which Cesar loves that name. I think it's kind of
I love it, man.
El Tráfico and the Clásico. No, it's El Tráfico there. The 405. I don't know anything about. I don't even know if that's.
That's the right area.
I don't know. All I know is
405 to the 3 to the W.
I know there was a 10 and the 405, and I was watching Entourage a lot, so I know some Sepulveda Boulevard. Anyway, we'll just start seeing that. Really quick, I'm kind of going through notifications. I think, and this might be wrong, I might not, but the guys over there at the in Barranquilla, I think lost today against El Salvador. I think I even saw the keeper being he got red carded and now out, and I think they lost against Venezuela. So I'm not quite sure, and you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be talking about it, but that's 2 games that the men's side lost under 21 over there in the Juegos Centroamericanos in Barranquilla, Colombia. The ladies are doing well, winning I think even 5-1 versus Haiti, if I'm not mistaken. But so we'll give you guys more of that on our next. But I know that when I was telling Cesar that when I was looking at the notifications, he said, "Hey, maybe the clubs are going to be happy." I think somebody even said, America would have won with Diego Lainez over there.
Yeah, because there are some young players that are worth noting that could be coming back, and I think they do have one more game on the 25th against Haiti. I think that's the game they do have one left, but I'm not entirely sure if they're out of the competition.
Or maybe there's like a best top 3.
I'm not sure. We should know this, but it's just with the World Cup madness and with the Liga Mx, and then let's just and the Liga Mx Femenil. Let's a quick shout out. We gotta talk about Liga Mx Femenil really quickly.
Yes.
If we're talking about big games, we have to give a shout out to the Clásico Tapatío and Liga Mx Femenil. 2-0 win for Chivas over Atlas in the Estadio Jalisco. So that's a good start to the season for Chivas' Femenil side. If you want to give credit to other Femenil sides, you got to talk about Pachuca's doing well, Xolos doing well, Tigres are also doing well. And it's also good to see a lot of those Femenil players starting to fill the national team sides as well. Because obviously the idea is they're going to be getting minutes week in and week out. So that's definitely ideal for the national team going forward. So quick shout out to the Femenil teams. Obviously keep an eye on them. And definitely keep an eye on them because there's a lot of high-scoring games. There's a significant amount of high-scoring games. So in the end, those games, even though they're not getting the same amount of attention as the men's games, they might end up being more fun than some of the men's games that we're watching. So definitely keep an eye on some of those Femenil games.
There have not been a scoreless game in Liga in the Femenil. So those definitely lots of exciting. We see that we're doing that. 51,000 people attended that final there in Monterrey. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that and give you more, and we'll see where obviously that a sport that's growing. I know Adriana Terrazas usually gives us a lot of different news on that's there, and she wasn't able to join today because it was a crazy Monday and news-wise there in Mexico. Mr. Tom Marshall said that he's taking another week. And you know what? I was listening to a lot.
Lazy dude. I was
listening to a lot of shows, in Mexico, here in the U.S., and it's like anybody that went to Russia, it's on vacation right now. So
I believe the exact message from him on the WhatsApp group was, "Can't be bothered by the show, Giza. See you guys later." That's me. I'm out here watching Leeds United.
He's out there.
I think that's exactly what he said.
You said he'll be back next week, so Mr. Tom Marshall should be back. I want to thank our guest for today, and you'll be seeing, I know, a lot more of Kari there at Food Max Nation doing her videos, her picks. The game of the week, that she'll be putting up like she did over the World Cup, and then more to come there. Got there from Max Nation. For Mr. Cesar Hernandez, the Xolos podcast, everything you need to know about Xolos there at all the games, obviously ESPN, and then there's also another project you started in the World Cup, Cesar, that you are doing with right?
The Athletic, I'm writing for The Athletic as well, writing for San Diego Chronicle. We'll write for food. Cool. We'll write for rent. That's just me. I have no life. It's just this, going to occasional show, playing trivia, and then just watching too much soccer. That's my life, yeah.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Mexican Soccer Show. We're a little late, but we give you those 4 minutes since we were late for 4 minutes. Gracias a todos on the chat that you're there, and thank you so much to all of you guys. I'm giving you guys a challenge. If you're listening to iTunes today or whatever day it is, take a picture of where you're listening to it. If it's in your car or if it's at work, just take a picture and tweet at us at Mexican Soccer Show. And we'll say hi. We'll do a retweet. We don't want to know where you guys listen to and around what time. I think it'd be kind of fun to see that. So thank you to those that many of you, over 1,000, almost 2,000 people listen to on the iTunes there with the Mexican Soccer Show. And I want to thank all of you guys that come on 7 o'clock on Mondays for our little edition of Monday Night Football here with the Mexican Soccer Show. Thank you so much, Kari. You know what? We'll let Kari end the show That way you can stop hearing me. So, Kari, take us away and say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening to Crazy Football Monday, and we hope to see you guys next week.
All right. Bye-bye.